Simon, and good morning, everybody. I would like to acknowledge the speakers that have already shared their ideas with us this morning. Mike Mitchell, I really appreciated what you said about having a good heart and a good mind. Dr. Paulette, always inspirational. And Darren Gugu, the previous panel member speaker, and the others to follow. When I was giving thought to what I would say during my 10 minutes, I thought way longer than 10 minutes. I thought about it and thought about it. And the reason that I was so thoughtful about it is Dr. Alfred hinted at it. What the period that we are going through right now is historical. I cannot believe that we are where we are at in the year 2021. When I started my education career back in the 1980s, I envisioned a better world, a decolonized world, an indigenized world, a world that we could all find the strengths in the ancestry of our parents and our grandparents. And I am thrilled that we are where we are today, despite all of the challenges, because I think that's the actual definition of resiliency. Resiliency is reflected in our daily efforts to change and improve what we can control. Our daily efforts to change and improve what we can control. So we are empowered. We have that fire inside of us, and it's up to us to ignite that spark that will help our fire burn big. And then I think about another word in the title of the FNEAA National Gathering, champions of change. What is a champion? Well, unfortunately, the Toronto Maple Leafs fans out there don't really have a good understanding of that. But what is a champion? A champion is that somebody that has the trophy and can hoist it up over their head? Is a champion somebody with a Superman cape? No, I think all of us are champions. We are champions when we steer our self-concept, the way we think about ourselves, our self-esteem, the way we feel about ourselves, and the actions that we deliver on through self-determination that reflect a resilient attitude, a resilient fire that burns within all of us. We are champions when we are mindful of indigenization at all levels of our shared education system. We are champions when we dare to dream beyond the next period of the day, the next semester, the next school year. I have recently learned about the value of 7th generations thinking and thinking beyond typical strategic planning cycles that sometimes are just one fiscal year.
It's not even with Maureen Jones. Vendor presentation, opening prayer and keynote. Who's that?
Heather, you're on, you're speaking, Heather.
I am so sorry. We're just having.
So all of those who continue to preserve Indigenous peoples' ways of knowing culture, language, and identity, you are the champions. And it's so pleasurable to be in a group that I can say, we are the champions. We are the people that make a difference. So what has been my family, my nation, my province, my treaty territories experience with COVID? One of the most important learnings came early on, and I've shared this before in a town hall. The idea of being mindful of the way that we regard COVID. Should we fear COVID? I had an experience with a knowledge keeper elder that recognized that fear was a natural reaction. But following the traditional ways that we have continuity from our ancestors and commonality across all Indigenous peoples in North America, is we have learned the importance of respect over fear. Do not fear the COVID-19 virus. Instead, respect it. Because the brain science and the people that understand our heart and spirits will tell us that our reactions are more positive and more fruitful when we are projecting from a basis of respect rather than one from fear. So what we have done at Pasqua First Nation Education Authority, located in Treaty 4 territory here in Saskatchewan, is we have taken the idea of respect over fear as motivation, and we have created something that we call a student success team. The focus is always on student success. And the most important aspect of responding to the pandemic within our territory has been understanding that many things have to happen at the same time. When you want to start a car and operate it on the highway at night, you need more than to turn the key on and know where the gas and brakes are. You need to know where the light switch is. Maybe you need to know where there's some relaxing music to turn on. But what we have to remember is that importance of team, and that when all the parts of the team are working well, that's when we will have more successful outcomes. Our motto at Chief Pasqua Education Center is student first. We evaluate all of our actions through the frame or the lens of, is this in the best interests of our children and youth? We know every child by their name and by their need. They are not a group. In order to be a champion of resilience and change, we have to take the aspect from our mental focus to make sure that we are accurate in our planning for every single child. As people in education know, in high cost special education, every student has an individual education plan. Well, at Pasqua First Nation, Chief Pasqua Education Center School, every child has a bundle. Every child, maybe not every family prefers to call it a bundle. Some are calling it a portfolio. And that virtual bundle or portfolio are the things, the ideas, the initiatives that we place within every child by name and by need, what is needed within their bundle. Our approach is holistic. We look at strengths-based, and it's very child-centered. So when I talk about the holistic approach, of course, we all understand the teachings of the circle of life, the mental, intellectual, the emotional, social, the spiritual, and the physical. And so our actions of creating that student bundle that designs their success, tracks their success, ensures their success, is holistic in approach. And what we are very mindful and conscientious about is understanding that as we as champions building resilience through the pandemic, is we cannot do it in one room of our house. If we think of the medicine wheel and the 4 areas as being 4 rooms in a house, we have to spend time in the emotional room, the mental room, the spiritual room, and the physical room each and every day to achieve that balance. Sometimes we stand alone, sometimes we stand with family, sometimes we stand with Creator, and sometimes we stand with our whole nation. But the idea is to utilize a holistic approach. Don't get too caught up in the written, the policy, the procedures, the documentation, because that's very much a mental, intellectual activity. Don't lose heart, don't lose your spirit, and don't lose the fact that you need physical energy to deliver on actions. So what else are we doing in our neck of the woods? We have an approach that we call things that work. I think more academic label of that might be best practices. We have to be very careful as we're creating our team of champions that we don't privilege those with an education degree or higher and use education jargon that our everyday people do not understand, including our students. So what are the best practices or things that have worked in our neck of the woods?
What's that? Who said, did I talk to them?
First and most important is the development of our pandemic response team at the nation level, at the school level. And the reason that that creation of the team is so important is our communications and our building relationships are the focus of that team. Sure, we have work we do. We have deliverables. But what is most important is that we are there to support each other in whatever way that members of the team need. Sometimes we need encouragement. Sometimes our own mental health is suffering. And sometimes we need to know what was that reference to a best practice and tell me that research report that I can acquire. I'll tell you one thing about Pasqua First Nation's pandemic response team that I find quite amazing. Never in a million years did I think I would be sitting in a room, physically distanced from colleagues, while they stuck something up their nose and wiggled it around to get some stuff on a Q-tip, and we did rapid testing together. I did not think I would ever be sitting with such behavior with colleagues, but that's the reality that we have. Our other best practice or things that work is a total focus and faith on our culture and our language and our identity as First Nations, and in our case, Cree and Saulteaux people. Our indigenization through our identity development is what builds us up as individuals so that we can be champions of change and resilient to survive the pandemic. Our Knockaway teacher has translated the words for personal protective equipment, labeling, masks, hand sanitizer, all of the words that we did not speak about on a regular basis. We have taken our teachers down to Ashen's Beach, located on our reserve on Pasqua Lake. And we have had land-based teaching and PD for our teachers. We were all in canoes about 2 weeks ago and nobody tipped. So we think we're ready for the students. A third best practice that we have dealt with is the whole concept of evaluation. How do we know when our students were on virtual learning, and some of them didn't sign on even once, what to do with the students when they return this fall? What grade do they go into? We know the value of social promotion, but we also know the value of achieving the learning outcomes of this grade before you go to the next grade. So what we did is we have three, an arts ed teacher specialist addressing the emotional and spiritual aspect of our recovery through traditional arts, our early years teacher specialist dealing with Head Start pre-K to grade 3. We are doing numeracy and literacy assessments with all of the children, and based upon the results, we are recommending to parents which grade the students should fall into. And if the parents agree with the academic assessment, the students are retained. If the parents are uncomfortable with it, the students advance, and a specialist teacher, special ed teacher, education assistants are there to provide the extra support. We also have somebody called a Fresh Start teacher, and that is mainly for our grade 7 to 12 students that perhaps are going through credit recovery because of missed work. There's no reason if a grade 10 student starts grade 10 English A 6 times that we can't take their novel study from one time and give them credit, their poetry unit from another time, and find a way to piece together all of the elements of offering that credit. We are very excited with our visual art program, our dance program, and our music program. Another best practice or thing that works is our launch into 21st century learning. And Darren Gugu explained some of the best practices in his nation with technologically assisted learning. We have a program available to us in Saskatchewan called Neducation. There are many Wi-Fi devices that can be sent home with every student that gives them access to internet on the nation. We did not have that before. Every child has been provided with an iPad. Every teacher utilizes Google Classrooms and all of the apps that are popping up all over the place. Seesaw, IXL, and some of the other programming. So we have taken the opportunity of COVID and the pandemic realities of students not coming into the building as a way to kickstart our launch into the 21st century in a very accelerated way. And the last practice that I will outline is something that we're calling our toolkit. Our toolkit is both virtual and actual. Our toolkits will be bundles that teachers and staff, students and parents will have access to. If they are experiencing a lack of motivation, lack of get up and go, perhaps they get the mental health toolkit. And we have objects in there, everything from lavender scented bath salts to reading stories that are of high interest to the young people in that building, to opportunities to connect with counselors and knowledge keepers by telephone or virtually. And in closing, I think what I want to really emphasize about being a champion of change and to honor resiliency is the importance of the role each of us hold. I have had to push my game to the highest I've ever had to push my game. And in pushing myself, I have discovered that there was more to me than I thought. And that has been the experience of all my colleagues. We smile at each other and we shake our head and we say, did we think we would ever be doing this? And the answer is no. And when we come together to talk about how is it that we are able to do this, and we smile and sometimes there's tears shed, because the way we are able to do this is because the strength of our ancestors, the beauty of our Creator to give us our Indigenous life, our Indigenous identity, our Indigenous ways of knowing. We are very happy and we're very proud to be part of a pandemic response. We are creating a time capsule of our pandemic response, and we'll open that up in a time, hopefully not another pandemic, but we will be able to track for the ages some of the objects of our pandemic response. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to the rest of the sessions.